There are 5 players under 25 years old that I cannot stop buying, and you should be too in Dynasty. First player on my list, it is Justin Herbert. And if you watch DLF, you're probably thinking, okay, I just saw Addison include Justin Herbert in a video that says I should be selling. And this is one where Addison and I are just not on the same page. Now, we aren't on the same page all the time, but this is a big one, I think. We're both, for the most part, talent over situation guys. But Justin Herbert coming off the board as QB8 in DLF's Dynasty ADP from February, I cannot get behind it. That is too low because I do not think there are 7 better quarterbacks in the NFL than Justin Herbert. I don't think there are 7 better fantasy quarterbacks than Justin Herbert. I understand why he's fallen to this point, right? Coming off of a 23 point per game season, if you take away the game he left early. And he now has Jim Harbaugh as his coach. He has Greg Roman as his offensive coordinator. It feels like a team that is going to run the ball a ton, right? Because those coaches traditionally. But when you look at who Jim Harbaugh has had to deal with or who's coached, it's Colin Kaepernick and it's Alex Smith. Greg Roman obviously is known for coaching and developing Lamar Jackson, but Harbaugh, let's focus on him. Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith. I don't think either of those scream elite passer, but I do think Harbaugh is a great coach. And what great coaches continually do is they tailor the offense to the players they have. And when you look at this offense, it's built around Justin Herbert. He is the focal point of this offense. Austin Eckler is gone. You going to run with Isaiah Spiller? Or whatever free agent, maybe they signed Deonta Foreman. Are you going to feature Deonta Foreman in the backfield? They don't have the cap space to go out and get one of those big names. So it's going to be a small name or a rookie. And I doubt they invest high draft capital in a rookie because the defense is shot. They need a second wide receiver. There's other holes that are way more important, I think, than running back in this offense. And I don't think they're going to essentially not utilize Herbert the proper way to say, you know what, we're going to feature some no-name running back that isn't worth the money most likely. So that's my 2 cents on that piece. And just to kind of wrap this all up, right? That's the negative on the situation. There's positive. I think he'll get a value bump post NFL draft because they have the opportunity to take potentially Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze, right? Whichever one they want to grab. They will have their choice if they stick at 5. So he may get a second weapon that could elevate him because we've seen the elite ceilings with Justin Herbert. And as Addison has pointed out in his video, right, that comes with freakish volume. And he may not hit that 27 points per game ceiling that he's hit, but we know the skill set is there. And that's what I care about. So for me, Justin Herbert is a buy at QB8 because there's not 7 better fantasy quarterbacks than Justin Herbert. I just don't buy it. I'll gladly tear down from Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is good. He has not had the same spike, the same ceiling, the same even run of health as Justin Herbert. So give me Herbert, tear down from Burrow. And the other one for me is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is great. CJ Stroud is going to be a very, very good fantasy quarterback. He already was in year 1, right? Putting up 21 points per game. But again, even with Justin Herbert in a down season, put up over 23 points per game. Justin Herbert may not necessarily be a better quarterback than him when it's all said and done. But as far as fantasy is concerned, they're really comparable. Like you're going to, I think, get very, very similar production. And CJ Stroud is valued higher right now. I think significantly higher by most people. So to me, that's a nice pivot because I don't know if you may not gain production, but you sure as hell will not lose a ton. So I'm fine pivoting off of CJ Stroud as well. Next up, I want to look at the running back position, and I want to look at Tyjae Spears. Now, he's a hot name. Like he is rising in ADP over and over and over. Every time you look, it's higher. In January, it was RB18. In February, it was RB14, and he may continue to tick higher. If they don't sign a big name in free agency, I think Spears has a chance to jump into the top 12. So that's what I'm trying to buy now before we get to free agency, before we get to the NFL draft, because everything I see on Tyjae Spears just says future RB1. I think bringing in Brian Callahan over from Cincinnati, what he's done with Joe Mixon from a fantasy perspective has been spectacular, right? You're looking at Joe Mixon as a top 12 running back in terms of points per game each of the last 4 seasons. Every single season with Brian Callahan. Continual workhorse type of usage. That typically carries over in a coaching staff, right? And when you have a guy like Tyjae Spears who has a true 3-down set, I think it's going to translate beautifully. I think that is going to be picture perfect, a coach that is willing to utilize his running back to the fullest extent. Tyjae Spears, I just mentioned it, he has the 3-down skill set. We saw it day one. Obviously, he is a great runner, averaged over 4.5 yards per carry, and that's not the best metric, but it points to some level of efficiency. And on top of that, he puts up a 14% target share as a rookie. That's a huge number for me, because if you look at the top 12 running backs from last season, they had an average target share of 13%. So Tyjae Spears is in that area you need to be in order to put up elite fantasy production, because he's going to get passing volume. That is going to be a big part of his game. And if we just use target share as a chance to find elite running backs, right? What did the running backs with over a 14% target share do last year? Well, there were 10 of them. 80% of them were top 24. So the floor is sky high. And 50% of them last season finished in the top 12. So that is why I'm fine buying Spears as a borderline RB1, because he has the skill set and the potential to exceed that immediately. 2024, he could be a top 10 running back. That's why I'm in. And you'll get people out there that are going to say, but Justin, Tyjae Spears has arthritis. His knees are shit. Yeah, they probably are, but looking at him in a 2-year window, is it any different than any other running back? Guys go down with ACLs, Achilles, meniscus tears, all of these different things that are taking them out for extended periods of time. I'm not buying a running back because they might not play 5 years. I don't care. I care about what is he going to do in year 2? What does he do in year 3? Then we can reevaluate in year 4, right? If it's starting to pop up as an issue in year 3, then okay, we can pivot and sell then. But I think for now, he's going to maintain value, and there's guys ahead of him I'm happy to pivot off of. Isaiah Pacheco is one. Again, Pacheco I think is very good. I think Tyjae Spears is just a better talent. I think he is going to have longer staying power than Pacheco will. You have James Cook, who looked good this year, still did not put up elite fantasy numbers in an elite offense. So if I can tear down, I don't know if it's a massive gap between the two of them, but give me an extra pick with somebody like Tyjae Spears, and I think that's worth it. And then the big one, and Addison talked about this too, Kyren Williams. I echo everything Addison has said on Kyren. I think he's a great one to pivot off of if you're looking to just still have great production and add some picks or another wide receiver. Sticking at the running back position, we're going way down the road. We're getting way cheap. We're going to Chase Brown. Off the board as RB48, only 23 years old, going to be, I think, 24 by the time the season starts. But Chase Brown is one of the best, I consider one of the better handcuffs in the NFL right now. And I am advocating to buy Chase Brown before free agency, because that's when his value can shift. That is where you have the potential to gain a ton of value in Chase Brown, because on March 17th, Joe Mixon is owed a $3 million roster bonus. It is not a guarantee he is on the team next year. And yeah, like the Bengals have a ton of cap. Everybody, for the most part, outside of like the Saints, have a ton of cap because there was a $30 million bump. So that may have saved Joe Mixon for this season. But even if Joe Mixon sticks with the Bengals, you're looking at like the price of a third for what I would consider is probably a top 5 or 6 handcuff in the NFL. I'm going to make that bet. Guys get injured. Joe Mixon is aging. He is getting less efficient. I don't think it's a guarantee he maintains his workhorse role, even if he sticks with the Bengals. That's the appeal on Chase Brown. I'm basically saying this as a let's try to predict what the hell the Bengals are going to do. Because if they sell and you buy Chase Brown for cheap, you look like a genius, right? I don't think he ever gets the workhorse status, but as a 1A, I think he'd be a damn good 1A with, being tied to Joe Burrow and an elite offense. That is what you care about. And then even if Joe Mixon goes down, you look smart, because buying handcuffs is usually one of the best investments in fantasy, because running backs get hurt all the damn time. We know it. We lived it last year. We lived it the year before, and probably every season prior to that. So that's the appeal behind Chase Brown. It's not that I think he is a better running back than everybody else in the league and he's undervalued. I think he's probably valued properly given the current situation. There are guys going well ahead of him that I think you could basically pivot off of that are similar value handcuffs. Jerome Ford is one of them, right? Yes, Nick Chubb is injured. Should be back at the start of the season. Jerome Ford just becomes another day 3 handcuff. And then you have Keaton Mitchell coming off of his own ACL tear with a backfield that I think is going to change drastically. If you can get anything attached to Chase Brown to trade those handcuffs, that's the kind of deal I'm always looking to make. Moving over to wide receiver, we have none other than Rashee Rice, and I talked about him as an early breakout candidate, and surprise, surprise, after the postseason, I'm not changing my tune. I am still in on Rashee Rice, 22 years old, off the board as wide receiver 17 right now. And it's not necessarily that I think that price is like too low. It's egregious. No, I think it's probably right. But I think he could be valued significantly higher at the end of this season. It took a while. It basically took to the bye week to get Rashee Rice fully integrated into, what is arguably the best offense in the NFL because it's helmed by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid calls plays. After the bye week, over 7 games, he averaged 17 points per game. He became Mahomes' true go-to wide receiver 1. Basically what they have been searching for since they traded Tyreek Hill last season, right? They hoped Juju could fill it. He sure as hell couldn't. Obviously, MVS didn't. Kadarius Toney, no shit. Sky Moore, no. It's Rashee Rice. That is the guy they have been searching for, and he is here to stay. But the other part of this is they're likely to add another wide receiver because it can't just be Rashee Rice. So when I view this over the next 2 to 3 seasons, it may not be ideal in 2024, and this is exactly what I said in my breakout video. It may not be ideal. We may not get the true superstar breakout that we want in 2024 because Travis Kelce likely to still be there. And he's going to get improved or increased competition likely. Maybe it's Mike Evans. Maybe it's Troy Franklin or Xavier Worthy, whoever they take at the end of the first. But ultimately, Travis Kelce, I would be shocked if he is playing past 2024. And that's where a ton of volume is available. So for me, Rashee Rice is a multi-year investment, right? Even if I don't get the superstardom that I'm hoping for, that he is very clearly capable of, it's going to come at some point. And to close us out, it is none other than Dontayvion Wicks. And I've talked about Dontayvion Wicks since the middle of last season. I think I've talked about him 2-3 times at this point now. 22 years old, off the board currently as wide receiver 53. And I get why he's there. Like, it's not shocking. He did not blow everybody out of the water last season. He's not the clear-cut wide receiver 1 by any stretch of the imagination in Green Bay. And that's because they have a talented room. You have Jaden Reed. You have Christian Watson. You have Romeo Doubs. You have Dontayvion Wicks. You have 4, I think, good-ish wide receivers. But I think Wicks has maybe not the highest ceiling, because that's probably Christian Watson, but Wicks has a great floor and a very valid wide receiver 2 ceiling. And he is going, dirt cheap, wide receiver 53. When you look at the yards per game across these 4 wide receivers, it's pretty similar, right? You have Jaden Reed up at the top, 49.6 yards per game. Then you get Romeo Doubs, 46.9. You get Christian Watson, 39.6. You get Dontayvion Wicks, 38.7. Yes, he is the lowest of the 4. 11 yards is not the end of the world. It's notable when you scope it out over, 17 weeks. But 38.7 is nothing to scoff at, especially considering he was a rookie, drafted later than Jaden Reed, so he did not automatically just kind of come in and assume a starting role. And that bears itself out in the numbers. When you look at route participation, again, Jaden Reed, roughly 50 yards a game, 69% route participation, sick. Romeo Doubs, 46.9 yards per game, like we said, 87.3 route participation. Christian Watson, 85.3% route participation. Dontayvion Wicks, 54.6. So he is not running nearly the same number of routes, right? He's earning it. He's having to earn it, and we saw it at the end of the season. He found his way into this lineup much more consistently, but running significantly less routes, he's comparable in production. That's what I care about. And I think when you look at the route running, 68% win rate versus man, you want them to be around 70 to be an above average wide receiver. He's 68% as a rookie. And then you have 77% versus zone. You want them right around 80% to be considered above average, 77 as a rookie. He is good. Like, I am very, very confident he is a good wide receiver. He may be the best wide receiver on this team by the end of next season. And that's a low cost bet I am willing to make. Again, wide receiver 53 off the board is nothing. That is free. 2 guys going ahead of him that I would love to trade back with, basically tier down, from Jameson Williams, Jahan Dotson. Dontayvion Wicks has shown more than Jameson Williams has. That's not a question. He had a similar season to Jahan Dotson as a rookie, but Jahan Dotson wasn't contending with 3 other very good wide receivers, right? He was working up against Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. There was not that other type of player sitting there. So I think his production, while comparable, is almost more impressive because he's not playing as a full-time player like Dotson was. Doesn't have first-round draft capital like either of them do. So if I could trade off of 2 guys that I just think are flat-out busts or are going to be busts, but it's all said and done, give me Dontayvion Wicks. You might be able to get a third with him. You may be able to even get a second because people may view Wicks as a complete throw-in. That's where I'm at. Give me Dontayvion Wicks all day long.